Ultraviolet light, while undetected by human vision, serves as an important signal in the world around us. Many flowers have evolved UV absorptive or reflective floral nectar guides to attract UV sensitive pollinators to guide them to where the nectar is. Some pollinators, like birds, have tetrachromatic vision, which means that they have four visual pigments enabling them to see red, green, blue, and UV. Bees and wasps have trichromatic vision like humans. However, unlike humans, they are only sensitive to the UV blue and green wavelengths rather than the RGB that humans can see. A typical butterfly has 5 times as many visual pigments as humans, allowing them to see a very broad spectrum of wavelengths, including the UV. These pollinators are attracted to the nectar the flowers produce, and in return, unwittingly transfer pollen grains to other flowers via the process of pollination. We will be exploring how the UV reflectance patterns differ in various flowers and contribute to pollination. The flowers in the documentary were taken from the flower dome in Gardens by the Bay, the largest glass greenhouse in the world. The constant 23 to 25 degree range of temperature in the greenhouse allows the dome to be in perpetual spring. This allows plants and flowers from different regions to thrive. We were fortunate enough to have Dr. Lim accompany us into the flower dome, where he taught us how to set up the equipment and take the UV photographs. We first took a photograph of the flower without any filters to see how it would look like with human vision. We then attached a UV pass filter that only allows UV light to pass through to a lens. The modified lens was then mounted onto a UV sensitive DSLR camera. We used a UV torch to increase the amount of UV light falling onto the plants. We then compared the two shots. How the flower looks like under the visible light spectrum and how it looks like under UV light only.
The rocky daisies are pollinated by bees. Only the disc flowers lining the middle are reflective of UV. This helps guide pollinators to where the reproductive structures are. Treasure flower is rich in nectar and pollen and is known for attracting birds and butterflies. The outer region of the petals strongly reflect UV, whereas the inner band is UV absorbing. The disc flowers in the middle also form highly UV reflecting marks. Singapore daisy is commonly seen along Singapore streets. This common bullseye UV pattern attracts diurnal pollinators such as bees and acts as a nectar guide by directing pollinators to the UV absorbing center where the nectar and reproductive structures can be found. Tiger's jaw also has a bullseye UV pattern. The stamens and carpels strongly absorb UV while the petals are highly UV reflective. The moss rose attracts bees as pollinators. While bees cannot see long wavelength colors like red and pink, they can use their UV vision to locate the bullseye UV pattern of these flowers. The trailing bellflower attracts bees and hummingbirds due to its pollen and nectar-rich flowers. It also exhibits a bullseye UV pattern. It is thought that many rhododendron species are pollinated by local birds in the Himalayan regions. Even though the flowers are uniformly colored in visible light, the upper petal has a region that is strongly absorbing in UV light. These regions probably serve to highlight the location of individual flowers within the inflorescence. Wild petunia species are adapted to pollination by bees, hawk moths, and hummingbirds. The three species of petunias here have a similar UV pattern. The middle of the flowers tend to be UV absorbing, except for the reproductive structures as indicated by a distinct white spot. This allows the reproductive structure of the flowers to stand out. Japanese anemone, likely pollinated by bees, has a yellow ring which contains the stamens that surround the pistils, which are indicated by the middle green part. Only the stamens are UV reflective, which help to guide the bees to where the pollen grains are. Under visible light, fuchsia flower petals appear white and the bracts are pinkish green. However, under UV, the pattern is reversed. The flower petals are highly UV absorbing while the bracts are reflective. The stamens and pistils are highly reflective and can thus be readily located by bees and hummingbirds. Little lily has upright trumpet-shaped flowers that are pollinated by swallowtail butterflies. The stamens are UV absorbing and the white areas that reflect more UV light serve as nectar guides to send pollinators to the stamens. The flower dust plant lives in desert or semi-arid habitats where they are exposed to a high degree of UV radiation from sunlight. Their leaves produce an epicuticular wax on the surface that enhances water repellency. The wax is also UV reflective, which helps to protect them from harmful UV rays.
From this documentary, we see that the different flowers have evolved different UV patterns to aid in pollination. Flowers in the same family tend to have similar UV patterns. UV nectar guides are also generally independent of the visible wavelength color. They provide plants with an evolutionary advantage by attracting and directing pollinators. Hence, they are indispensable to the natural world.